Hello everyone, welcome to the Circle of Hanik with you, Lala Gomez. And today we are going to study the emotional mechanism in your birth chart. So let's start by understanding what is the emotional mechanism. The emotional mechanism is the study of your moon position, your moon placement in your birth chart. This on its own represents a full session to understand how you emotionally operate. Now, let us start by a simple division. Okay, let us clarify the difference between the sun and the moon in the birth chart. The sun represents the conscious identity, the purpose, and direction of your incarnation. Okay, while the moon represents your emotional identity, your needs, and your survival patterns. We could say in a sentence that the sun represents the I am, and I would rather say I am becoming, while the moon says I need. So there is a big difference between who I am, what I am, or into whom I am turning into or becoming, and what I need. Okay? Now, the emotional mechanism is based on that simple sentence I need. So, the moon in astrology represents the inner world, how we feel, how we respond, how we remember, and all the need that we have in order to feel safe. While the sun, in the other hand, shows who we are becoming, it shows the person that we are turning into, and the moon shows where we come from and what we need in order to feel held and supported. So we can say that the sun is a point of future while the moon is a point of past. So now let's focus on the moon. The moon operates automatically. I would rather say it operates reactively. The moon reacts. Okay? So when something happens, the moon turns on and it reacts. It doesn't think, it doesn't process. It is deeply tied to the body, to the nervous system, to the digestion, and to the hormonal cycles. So when we have issues with our hormones, with our digestions, or with our emotional system or the nervous system, we are having probably an unbalanced management of our moon. Because, by the way, even if it's something that you need, it still is something that you need to mature, to grow, to nurture, yes, but to also train and educate. Because the moon, when it's not educated, it can react very raw. It manifests all the shadow aspects of its sign, its house, its aspects, etc. The moon stores emotional experiences from childhood, ancestral memory, and transgenerational memory. And I would add into this karmic memories from past lives, if you believe in past lives. Now, going to the core role of the moon, it governs the emotions and the emotional memory, not only what is stored in the psyche but also in the body, the subconscious and instinctive reactions. Remember, the moon doesn't think, the moon reacts. The safety, the style of attachment, and the nourishment. So, for example, a codependent moon will be more a moon of water sign versus an avoidant moon. It's more air, for example, Aquarius. Just to give an example. The inner child and early conditioning, because it talks about the mother or the maternal matrix. How was care perceived or learned? The habits, moods, and daily rhythms of your home. So fire moons probably saw a lot of drama, a lot of fights, a lot of discussion, especially Aries moon. Okay? Scorpio moon probably saw a lot of power, uh, discord, fight for power at home, etc. Manipulation could be. Now, that it's very common, but it doesn't mean that all the moons in Scorpio had exactly the same experience. It's about perceptions, but they do fall into a range of experience. The moon in the birth chart is what marks the child. The child lives by his moon the first 7 years of his life. That's the sign that he displays the most. And in the adult, in the birth chart of the person, even if he grows up and becomes an adult, it shows how we seek comfort, how we process pain and pleasure, how we bond and attach, how we practice self soothing, and how we experience vulnerability, and what give us a stability or calmness or not. Okay? When the moon is on balance, which is, let's say that the moon naturally, if we don't have a great childhood because we don't have conscious parenthood, okay, our moon is most probably unbalanced. And the adult starts parenting himself and educating his own moon, okay? But up to that moment, which is pretty much the process of healing, is involved in analyzing the moon or the lunar mechanism. When the moon is on balance, it shows emotional reactivity. It shows how we react emotionally. The anxiety or mood swings are associated to our moon. So, for example, the moon in air would be way more anxious. A moon in water, tendency to depression. A moon in fire, tendency to anger. And a moon in earth, tendency to excesses of the body, okay? The reality, the physical reality, or excess at work, or excess indulgence, etc. Feeling unsafe, the indulgence for Taurus, but for Capricorn would be the counter, would be excess of work, for example. Feeling unsafe even when life is stable. The sensation of lack of safety comes from the moon. That's when the nervous system is not regulated. Difficulty in receiving care pretty much can be connected to the moon. For example, moon in Capricorn don't know easily how to receive care. Moon in Aries, moon in Aquarius. Somatic tension, especially in the chest, stomach, and the womb. Okay, these areas are highly connected to the moon. Men and females, men and women, both have, of course, a connection with their moon. It's not only something related to the male, but women in general tend to be way more ruled by the moon. It doesn't mean that the men don't react according to their emotional mechanism. They do, but women are way more connected to the moon in general. When the moon is integrated, we develop emotional self trust because the moon is a very, very, very highly personal planet. So it's how I relate to myself. It also gives us that we become mothers of ourselves, and then we can become nurturing figures for ourselves and then for others. So it will also show how we give love, not only to a partner, but to everyone, our friends, our children, our work, our environment. It is in that at that moment, it is that it does have a correlation with Venus, but Venus is more how I relate to abundance, self-esteem, love. Okay, maybe in the next program we can do program talking about the Venus in the birth chart, but uh, when we talk about relationships, we will see the moon and Venus, of course. And I have mentioned earlier that in previous videos that when someone has a moon that it's compatible with someone else, it doesn't matter if the suns are not compatible, there is high level of compatibility by sign or by element. Okay, deep intuition, because the moon rules the intuition and the inner safety, and the rhythmic living aligned with cycles, because the moon regulates our rhythm. The moon goes around the zodiac in 28 days. We process a lot of changes in 28 days with the moon. Now, I want to make a difference between the birth chart moon and the solar return moon. The solar return is a chart that we get yearly by our birthday time, and it's our yearly theme for our emotional system. So it shows where our nervous system, heart, and body will be living for the next 12 months from the moment of our birthday. It shows our emotional focus of the year. It shows what will feel emotionally urgent during the year. It shows where we seek safety, comfort, and belonging. It shows how reactive or sensitive we might be. And it shows the kind of experiences that will move us emotionally during the year. It doesn't mean, for example, this year I'm moon in Leo, but my natal moon is in Aries. It doesn't mean I become moon in Leo for the year and next year I will be moon in Capricorn. No, it is a secondary sign. The base will always be my natal moon. That my emotional mechanism is actually based on my natal moon. But the yearly moon will give an extra layer, okay, of what the energy, my emotional energy, will be during the year without changing my nature. Now, the progress moon in the secondary progressions, the moon moves 1 degree per month. Okay, this is for more advanced astrology students. And what the progress moon shows is how our emotional body is evolving over time. Is the process of inner maturity. So it shows how we grow, the stages of our emotional growth. It shows the changes that we are needing, requiring, and the attachment and the self-care, how we are evolving about it, and the inner seasons of life. Because it's like we start, for example, let's say that I am a moon in Aries, so after 30 months, since I was born, then my moon moves to Taurus. So during those next 30 months after my birth, I start integrating the Taurus energy, then Gemini, then, and it moves like that throughout the astrological signs, 1 degree per month. And remember that the chart contains 360 degrees. So the solar return shows the emotional weather of the year, while the progress moon is the climate of the emotional development through life. Okay, for example, I had a solar return this year when I turned 39 on Leo, and my moon has been progressed for the last 20 months, I guess, through Leo itself. So I'm integrating the Leo energy within me without changing my natal chart or without changing my natal moon. Okay? Now, I want to show you with this example that I have here. I chose this example because this moon has a lot of aspects and things that are worthy of showing, while not all the moons have a lot of aspects. I want to show you how to calculate your emotional mechanism for you or for others. The first thing is downloading the birth chart, which you already learned in the previous video. And then you analyze. First, you search for the moon and you look at the sign. In this case, we have a moon in a Scorpio. So, what does a moon in a Scorpio tell me? Okay, it's a moon of water, it's a moon of a lot of emotional intensity, it's a moon that is very connected to processes of transformation, change, death, metaphorical, or even in certain cases could be real. But in reality, what it shows us is like a necessity of those inner processes of change, of transformation. When a person is born with moon in a Scorpio, they have a strong tendency and attachment and attraction to all the topics of a Scorpio: death, transformation. They are very connected to the dark aspect of life. For example, you notice people liking all things associated to criminology, all these kinds of thrillers, psychological thrillers, when they are searching for entertainment. Their taste itself, their taste in life is very, let's say, dark. It doesn't mean that they have to always wear black or nothing like that, but it's like they are very connected to that dark aspect of life. They are not bubbly, they are deep. They are also people that relate to other in a very deep manner. Okay, they love with intensity, because remember that the moon represents how someone loves. They love with intensity, they love with passion, they love with a lot of care. They're also their psychic abilities, because the moon represents the psychic abilities, are very heightened when the moon is in water, especially in Scorpio. Okay, now the house. So you study the moon according to the sign. And remember, you study all the aspects of the sign and then add the concept of need. So a Scorpio is transformation. The moon in a Scorpio needs transformation. A Scorpio is death. The moon in a Scorpio needs death. A Scorpio is connection with the sexual energy. The moon in a Scorpio needs the sexual connection in order to feel safe. That's one of the aspects of a moon in a Scorpio. A Scorpio is intensity. The moon in a Scorpio needs intensity. It's one of the hardest moons. This one, and there are a couple of others that are the hardest one. Scorpio is a very intense moon. As a child, if you have a child born with a moon in a Scorpio, he requires a lot of attention, a lot of care, a lot of presence, and a lot of honesty. Because the Scorpios perceive the lies and perceive the superficiality, and they don't buy it. So these are children, if you have a child with a moon in a Scorpio, that will demand you, or a relationship with an adult with a moon in a Scorpio, that will demand from you a lot of honesty. Okay? Now, we look at the house. The house has analogies with the signs. In the case of the house 5, it has an analogy with the sign of Leo. Okay? So, that is talking about the relationship with the mother. Okay? The mother. The mother of this child, or the way that this child or this adult perceives the mother, is as someone with Leo traits. The mother could be Leo or not. And the mother treated the child in a Leo manner. For example, this child or this adult in his childhood could be someone in the spotlight of his house, someone admired, someone that searched a lot of or gave entertainment to the family. As an adult, is a person very connected with shining Leo energy, very connected with making himself present, visible. Is somebody that needs, remember, the house also represents the need when we talk about the emotional mechanism. This person needs to shine in order to feel safe, needs to show himself, needs to be in the spotlight. Now, then we look at the aspects. First, conjunction with the sun. When the moon is in conjunction with the planet, it will take the energy of the planet or the energy of the sign that this planet rules. In conjunction with the sun is the ruler of Leo. So this a moon in conjunction with the sun has a characteristic of a moon in Leo energy. And one interesting point, when the moon is in conjunction with the sun, it means the person was born in a new moon. Now, pay attention. The moon, there are two ways of calculating the new moon. The new moon, maybe if this person was born a day before, the moon still will be in conjunction with the sun, but behind the sun. So, when the moon is behind the sun, the person has a characteristic of being like introvert because it's in a process of closure. When the moon passes the sun, the person has an extrovert attitude because it's a conquest energy, an energy of opening. Okay, so also that applies. Once the moon passes the full moon, and start getting close to the sun, again, it's a closure moon. It's more introvert. When the moon is in the first half after the sun, then the person will have an extrovert personality. Then we have, so that it will give us again an energy of Leo energy, which we already explained, similar to the house 5. This moon in particular has a sextile with Pluto, with Saturn, and with the South Node. When it has a sextile, which is a pleasant, let's say, aspect to Pluto, it adds to the intensity because it makes it more a Scorpio of what it already is. It's a very intense, determined person that needs to feel in power, because Pluto represents the internal power, but also is a person that could experience a lot of fear of losing power. So we can here see a tendency to control and domination, that this person will have a character of being controlling and dominating. It's a good thing that is in a good aspect, but it means in blue, but still it doesn't mean it's going to be light. Okay, it's gonna be a person who has tendencies of control and domination. With Saturn, it will give a hint of fear, okay, fear of failure, but also mastery on himself. This person will have tendencies of being very disciplined in order to reach mastery. All right, and the South Node means that this person is very connected to an aspect of a past life. Very connected, his emotional world. Now, probably other aspects are connected to his point of evolution, but his emotional world is very highly connected to a past life that he needs to learn to integrate and let go in order to go to his North Node. Now, something interesting about this moon is that, okay, let me continue with this. This energy here, Saturn and South Node and Pluto are in conjunction with the DSC, which is the cusp of the house 7. This tells me that part of the scenario where this moon will evolve is through partnership with others, because there we have strong planets like Pluto, Saturn, and a strong point that is the South Node. So when this moon faces partnership through marriage or through business, this person is going to train the process of evolution of his moon. Okay, and that energy is in Capricorn. So we might perceive this person as someone highly disciplined, like a Capricorn energy, because it's aspected to lots of things in Capricorn. The aspect to Saturn will give that energy of Capricorn as well. A beautiful trine to Neptune, and which is in conjunction with Lilith. Well, we would have to do a full interpretation here, but let's stick to Neptune, which is in Pisces. And by the way, Neptune retrograde in this case gives a lot of intuition. Moon in Scorpio is already very intuitive, but with aspected to Neptune retrograde, this person has a strong intuition, dreams, visions, premonitions in the house 9, the house of philosophy, aspected properly. Now, also, this is talking about his experience of his mom. His mom is a woman who he perceives as someone that with probably domination and strict, but also someone that is very intuitive with Neptune, and with whom he has a, let's say, a kind of connection. One interesting aspect to notice in this birth chart in particular, besides these aspects which are very strong. Oh, okay, and I forgot to mention there is an opposition here to Uranus. Now, this opposition is not direct, but it is happening because since it's in conjunction with the sun, it will take the aspects of the sun, and the sun is directly in opposition to Uranus, therefore it will touch the moon. So it will also, it's representing the energy, how he perceives his parents, because of the sun represents the father and the moon the mother, as intermittent people. Also a necessity of withdrawal, which is Uranus, but also attachment, which is Scorpio, creating an internal confusion that the person in an older age needs to figure out and find the balance. One important aspect in this birth chart is that this person is ascendant in Cancer, and we also look at Cancer because Cancer is ruled by the moon to understand an extra added information of the chart. This person has a rising in Cancer with the North Node. This person comes in life to integrate his emotional world, to train it, to mature it, to transform it, so that all this power and potency that this person has, he can give it to others. And with that energy, create. Show himself as a nurturing figure, not only taking this energy, but giving it to others, not only taking through relationships or wanting to be in the spotlight, but also guiding others to reach their position. And the last thing that we analyze in the emotional mechanism, if wanted, is the degree. But for that, we will have to explain the degree system. Some astrologers consider the degree as an important part of astrology because it gives us information of the energy. The degree 13 is associated to Aries, but it's also part of the second decade, talking about a fixed energy. It's like a Scorpio energy already sustained itself. I hope that you find this video helpful to understand your emotional mechanism, and see you in the next opportunity.